Zombies, check. Gritty apocalypse, check. A backpack full of loot and regrets, you bet. This is SurrounDead, the indie open world survival game that asks one simple question. What would happen if The Walking Dead and Minecraft had a bouncing block-headed baby and then raised it on a strict diet of bullets and canned beans? Let's dive into the beautiful, terrifying and surprisingly cosy world of SurrounDead. If you're looking for deep narrative threads or dramatic cutscenes, then keep walking, Zombie Hunter, because SurrounDead doesn't hold your hand or your heart. There's no long-winded exposition or tragic backstory delivered by a dying NPC. Instead, the story is told the old-fashioned way through the world itself. You'll find abandoned homes, scribbled notes, rusting vehicles and enough environmental storytelling to piece together your own version of the apocalypse. It's show, don't tell, but with a lot more blood and canned soup. So, is there a plot? Not really, but does it matter? Not when you're too busy fighting off zombies in your underwear because your armour broke and you had to stop for loot. In fairness to the game and its developer, SurrounDead is still in early access, and the dev has said that there will be a story and maybe some branching story paths that you can lead down to. So if you do like a meaty story to immerse you in a game world, don't despair yet, it's on the horizon. For a one-dev indie survival game, SurrounDead punches above its weight in the looks department. The visuals are stylised, they have a Minecraft, Roblox, Lego kind of thing going on, but don't let that fool you, there's beauty in these here blocks. From fog-drenched forests to bullet-riddled suburbs, the atmosphere is consistently moody and immersive. I was surprised at how atmospheric the game was, considering I was controlling a man who looked like he escaped a Playmobil set. Lighting plays a big role in the world of SurrounDead. Wandering into a darkened house with just a flashlight musters the kind of tension AAA games wish they had. It's not photorealistic, but it doesn't need to be. In this sense, the world feels alive, even if most of its inhabitants are dead. The weather system is also impressively implemented, with dreary rainstorms increasing the feelings of hopelessness, only to give way to bright cleansing sunshine that gives you back some hope that you aren't going to be dinner today. At one point I was out in the wilderness and a huge thunderstorm rolled in. Bassy cracks of thunder assaulted my ears via my headphones, giving me a genuine feeling of vulnerability. As sheets of rain obscured my vision, threats could be closer than I thought. Stress-inducing stuff for sure. Impressive. The landscapes and built-up areas have a decent bit of variety, although some asset reuse does make itself known at times. It's not too excessive and you still get the impression you're entering some distinct districts. Our blocky main protagonist, NPCs and zombies are nicely detailed, with great attention being given to the game's firearms. I'm also happy to say performance was solid for me during my time with the game. I can't remember having any major frame drops or frame pacing issues, and there can be quite a few of our expired friends on screen at the same time, so that was good to see. My only gripe on the visuals front is I did manage to clip through a vehicle or two. I happened to get stuck in a bus for a while until I could jump myself free, but these moments were few and far between. Graphically, SurrounDead does its own thing, creates a convincing atmosphere and is largely successful in everything it attempts. Graphics scores 22 out of 25. Gameplay in SurrounDead is that classic survival mix: fight, scavenge, craft, upgrade, repeat. You'll loot everything from empty gas stations to military bases, all while managing hunger, thirst and your ever dwindling inventory space. You'll often find yourself having to decide between the 38 bandages you've been hoarding just in case or the wardrobe you just found. In fact, inventory management in SurrounDead is surprisingly absorbing. No, don't click away, hear me out on this one. Scattered among the huge amount of stuff you can pick up, you'll find many things that can double as a new chunk of your inventory space. To give you an example, early on I was struggling around with a full backpack, but then discovered a lunchbox that enabled me to stash all my food, freeing up valuable room in my bag for the 50 toilet rolls I'd accumulated. The same thing goes for clothing. Pick up a handy pair of cargo pants and you gain some new storage in the form of pockets. It's a nice variation on an inventory system and one the geeky side of me enjoyed. Gamifying inventory management is a stroke of genius and changes what can be a chore in most games into a satisfying minigame. Of course, collecting stuff like a zombie fighting magpie would be pretty useless if you couldn't do much with it, but luckily there is a robust crafting and building system to keep you occupied when you aren't trying to stop walking corpses sucking your brains out with a straw. Find the right tools to start chopping down trees and smashing up rocks and you will be able to build your first crafting bench. From there you can build some useful but rudimentary items, or you can build some of the more advanced workbenches that enable you to go full on architect. SurrounDead doesn't dictate to you where you can set up base. You can even commandeer an existing structure and turn that into your own HQ. I managed to find an industrial unit at the end of a cul-de-sac that fit the bill perfectly. From there I managed to add to the existing structure and create something that felt safe from my rotting neighbours and roaming bandits. I found the building and crafting system on offer to be a lot of fun. I was spending more and more time venturing out into the world for specific crafting ingredients. In the absence of a storyline to follow, I found this gave the game some focus. Rather than just existing inside this sandbox just because, I felt like I was creating a better in-game life for my pointy-headed doppelganger. I really hope in future updates we get more stuff to craft and build with. Of course, no zombie game would be complete without some gratuitous violence. Combat is snappy and satisfying, guns have some kick, melee feels impactful, and headshots actually matter. Zombies are dangerous in numbers but manageable solo. Unless you're cocky, then it's game over and back to your last save. You get a lot of options when it comes to fighting. There's a decent selection of guns on offer that all behave a bit differently from one another, from cranky old single shot rifles to SMGs that spit hot lead like saliva from the mouth of a mumble rapper, and there is a whole heap of goodies you can bolt onto them in the form of scopes, butts and suppressors. There is something for everyone when it comes to firearms, but it's nice to see that both melee and guns are both viable options. I found a rather nice katana which became a staple of my arsenal. It was nice and quiet, essential unless you want to be swamped by brain eaters. It was also pretty powerful. I found myself using melee weapons and firearms in a near equal split. The icing on the death dealing cake is throwables in the form of some different flavoured grenades and molotovs. It's nice to see all forms of combat getting some love. When you're not building or fighting off the undead, you'll be travelling all over the sizable map, mostly on foot, but you can find some working vehicles, and there is a nice variety in the transport you can find, ranging from regular cars and vans to more heavy duty stuff like trucks and military vehicles. Of course it wouldn't be a survival game without having to keep these vehicles maintained with repair kits and topping up the fuel regularly for that road trip to the POI you saw in passing. And talking of points of interest, there are many of them in SurrounDead. There are infestation points to stomp out, bandit camps to raid, irradiated military bunkers, abandoned houses, and some full-blown towns with shops and apartment blocks, to name a few. Discovering all this stuff reminded me of my first steps outside the vault in Fallout 3. The POIs are not as dense as in Bethesda's game, but the essence of piquing curiosity about that odd-looking bit of map that caught your eye gave me the same kind of vibes. The loot you're rewarded with is usually commensurate with your effort to get it. In one session I discovered a military-controlled observatory. After a lengthy sniping session I gained access and filled my boots with the goodies inside. It was super satisfying. It was nice to feel my efforts were being rewarded. So, we have a decent sized map with a good amount of stuff to do. Combat is satisfying and the survival and building mechanics are coming along nicely. But SurrounDead does have a few issues, but before I level some criticism, please bear in mind that the game is in early access, it's not a finished product, and by the time you have listened to this segment of the video, these things may well have changed or been resolved. So, to start with, there is currently no official controller support. It is possible to play on a controller, but when I attempted to play this way I found it a little bit clunky and reverted back to keyboard and mouse. Having said that, I did pick up a controller when I was in a vehicle as I found it more intuitive for driving. Probably more of a comment on my keyboard and mouse skills though, as I don't play that way very often. I don't know if the dev has plans to add controller support, but I imagine the inventory management would get tricky on a pad, but it's something to bear in mind if you hate playing keyboard and mouse. There are also a few issues around enemy variety, a lack of missions and NPCs, and the occasional time when it's possible to get stuck in a bus, but these are all fixable and some are on the roadmap already. Overall, the gameplay in SurrounDead is good. Although it has a lot of the ingredients of its survival crafting peers, it manages to put its own spin on things, all in a setting that creates a convincing atmosphere despite its lack of a narrative. Gameplay scores 22 out of 25. Audio in SurrounDead isn't flashy, but that's the point. Ambient sound design does the heavy lifting. The distant howl of a zombie, the crunch of your footsteps on gravel, the eerie silence before a firefight, it all works to build atmosphere. Music is minimal and used sparingly to let the tension breathe. When it kicks in, it hits just right. You could imagine hearing some of it in an episode of The Walking Dead, but the music does have a habit of stopping abruptly, and this can be jarring and breaks immersion when it happens. Hopefully a more subtle dying down of the music can be implemented at some point. Sound effects are pretty good. Gunshots sound punchy, melee thuds are meaty, and yes, zombies groan with the kind of enthusiasm only the undead can muster. Is it Hollywood level sound design? No, but it is immersive, and that's what counts in a game where tension and stress are part of the experience. Audio in SurrounDead gets 21 out of 25. SurrounDead is a budget-friendly survival experience, and frankly it's punching way above its indie weight class. For the price of a large coffee and a muffin, maybe, you get a lot of content even in this early access phase, with an addictive set of game systems and consistent updates and developer support. It's a pretty big open-ended experience. It's the kind of game that you can make your own fun with. Of course, how much you get out of it will depend on how much you like exploration, loot scavenging and base building. If that's your jam, then there are potentially hundreds of hours of play on offer. There's no microtransactions, no battle pass, no shady monetization. It's pure old school game design. Buy it once, enjoy it until the real zombie apocalypse begins. Value gets 22 out of 25. SurrounDead isn't trying to reinvent the wheel, it's just trying to give you a zombie apocalypse that's fun, tense and worth your time, and you know what? It succeeds. It may not have the flashiest graphics or deepest story, or any story at the minute, but it nails the vibe. Hunting through ruined towns, crafting your way to survival, it always leaves you wondering what's around the next corner. If you like survival games or just want something that scratches that DayZ itch without the stress of online trolls or full loot PvP heartbreak, this is worth a spot in your library. Just remember, close your doors, aim for the head, and never trust a seemingly empty police station. Overall, SurrounDead gets 87 out of 100. If you enjoyed this review, give that like button a friendly bash, subscribe for more, and drop your most chaotic SurrounDead moment in the comments. Thanks for watching, and stay alive out there.